So we're in our Type 2 boat. This is a Type 2A, and we made it out to our patrol zone. And take a look at my last video on crew scheduling if you'd like to figure out how to set your crew up in order to maximize your fuel economy so that you can do these Type 2A missions without too much difficulty. I've made it out to my patrol zone on about 25% fuel, so I've got looks like 76% left, and plenty of fuel to do my patrol and finish this mission. But at the end of the I paused the game, and at the end of the last patrol we had a hydro contact, and that was a good place to stop because I wanted to show you now kind of another tool in the submarine commander's toolbox related to how do you go about intercepting either hydrophone contacts or radio contacts. And I'm going to try to, I'm not going to get into a lot of details in terms of like a forbearing method for determining true course, although that's certainly possible. But for this one, I just want to focus more on you've got an idea of a position of a target and its direction and speed, and you're wanting to figure out what's the best way to get there. And from our last video also, I have set up my my UI such that if I click on these again, the dials are gonna show up where I want them, and I think you'll want to do that as well. But before I take me out of pause time, I just want to talk briefly about the concept here of dead reckoning and vectored intercept. And I think a lot of folks will explain. Dead reckoning kind of comes as a it's kind of obvious, right? You don't necessarily need to be told how to do it because it's kind of intuitively known. But let's say we have either a hydrophone or a radio contact, and maybe it's in this square. We'll put it in AN275, and it's we'll just go to the center. Let's assume we got a radio contact, AN275. It's moving west, slow. So it's got a 270 course, and it's slow. My ship is own ship. My submarine is down here. I'm submerged and moving along, and I want to know whether or not I can intercept it. And as a general rule of thumb, if your ship is moving faster than the target ship, you can intercept it. There's no question. I'm going to be playing where if there are ships or contacts within my patrol zone, I default back to the U-Boat Commander's Handbook, which basically tells me you find a target and you pursue it at full speed, and you get there as soon as possible and you sink the ship. And that's the way I'm going to play this. So I want to know if I'm moving at flank, where would I go to introduce, what course could I take, what vector, in order to get me on an intercept path with this ship. So dead reckoning, what that would be you would make assumptions about the position of your ship and its speed and direction, and then you'd make assumptions about the target ship, its speed and direction, and you would plot out where you think they might meet. So you might say, well, let's just take a general path here, and we'll start to go in this direction for a while, and then we'll take another hydrophone, and maybe you do something where it's like, well, maybe halfway, whatever heuristic you want to apply. I'll take another hydrophone bearing here, and I see the ship has moved maybe to there. And it's like, okay, well then I'll change my direction and I'll go here. Maybe I'll go here halfway. And I go out to here, and it's like, well, now I see the ship is there. And you kind of get into this little bit of a lattice work where you get this curved course, and I've exaggerated a little bit, but you get the idea. You end up with a curvature to it, and the question might become, well, isn't there if I make an assumption about how fast that ship's going and what direction it's traveling, and I know how fast my ship can go. Isn't there some sort of math I could do to figure out what heading or what bearing I need to go in order to try to find a reasonably good intercept? And that the answer is yes, and it's covered with it's covered under marine navigation with a maneuvering board, and the basically the fundamental rule of you're trying to figure out, if I'm heading at full speed, what is the direction I need to head in order to maintain constant bearing with my target and have decreasing range. So constant bearing, decreasing range equals intercept. There is a math solution for this, and it's using vector mathematics and on a polar coordinate plane, which is essentially what, if you're interested in maneuvering boards, they're fascinating, and with pencil and paper you can figure this stuff out. And I'd recommend taking a look at some of the publications by the Navy. Look for information about the 5090 maneuvering board and how you can use that to solve relative motion problems. But to figure out our little problem, which is a very, very basic and fundamental problem of maneuvering boards. So we're going to draw a radius here that's going to be a representation of the speed heading vector of our target. So I'm going to make an assumption that this target's moving at 7 knots, and I'm going to use kilometers as a proxy, but it's really just magnitude and direction that we're trying to get in a vector. So 7 and the direction of 270. And it's not, because I'm drawing a radius, I've got my vector, but I've got it in I've got radials in every single direction for what that vector is. Now I'm going to add to it my ship's speed. So if I go to the surface and I approach this ship at flank, I could approach it at 13. So we'll go out here to 13, and just to show you that it doesn't really matter where I could have this up here. It's really I'm plotting all radials, so I've got the radius of this circle. I could stick it out here, it wouldn't really matter. But the idea is I've got a 7 radial vector and I've got a 13 radial vector that's being added to the 7. Now, how do I use those two vectors to figure out my intercept? And what we do is we draw a bearing directly to the target, and you see this bearing line. And then what's interesting is, where does this line intersect our radial vectors? And to figure out the intercept course, we would start at the target, and we're going to move out to our speed radial, and we're going to click it there, and then we're coming in here to the ship's speed radial and click there on its course. So it's basically my course, that course, and then it's coming up with degrees, 24.9. We'll call it 25. That 24.9, 25 is the intercept vector. So if I transfer it down to my ship, call it 25, that is the course that I need to take given my ship speed surfaced flank doing 13 and this ship's speed moving west at 7 knots. That's where we should meet. Now my information is not perfect, so it might be a good idea that once I'm out to maybe around here, I run another hydro bearing and see if the ship is where I think it should be. It doesn't necessarily mean that I need to change course. That concept of constant bearing, decreasing range, as I'm moving along, what I should see is when my ship is, say, here, I would expect my target ship would be about right there. Now why is that? Because these these parallel lines represent a bearing that has not changed. If the bearing to the ship was, I don't know, what is that? I should have looked at this before. Oh, I'd have to change my direction. Well, let's just guess at it, 30 or 45 degrees, or maybe 30 degrees. If my bearing to the target was 30 degrees here, and as I move, what I'm expecting to see, if I'm on a good intercept path, is my bearing to the target's always going to be 30 degrees. So no matter where I am, I can draw a parallel and I can figure out where that ship is going to be. So constant bearing, decreasing range, and eventually I'll get close enough to the ship where I'll want to set up my firing solutions. So that's the idea of a vectored intercept, and that's how you do the math. And I'm going to go over that a few times here. I don't necessarily know that I'm going to go through sinking any of these ships in this particular one, because I just want to focus on that method, but who knows, maybe I will. So with all that, I'm going to take us out of pause time, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the quote-unquote 100% mode in this game without mods. And I had mentioned that if you want to do your own forebearing method, you're going to have to refrain from, if you don't install mods, you're going to have to refrain from actually clicking on that. You're just going to have to take the read of 224. 224 is going to be down, if my sub's heading in this direction, 224 is down here somewhere, I believe. Let's take a look. There's 0 heading, so 224, down this way. So, whether you're moving or you're at you're still, you can go and look up forebearing method, and you can figure out how to, with forebearings, figure out, a true course determination. You won't necessarily have the right distance, but it would be the first step. But in this game, if you, and I'll scroll over here just to illustrate, if you actually click into this, the camera's going to kind of center in on approximately where that ship is. So it's going to give you a little bit of cheaty information, but you can chalk that up to, hey, it's my sonar officer. He's got certain things that he knows. For instance, he knows the maximum range of his hydrophone. And before I'm on a dive schedule here, I want to stay submerged. So I'm going to set our depth to 30.
Current depth 5 meters.
And that should take us out of, I had us on dive schedule, so that will hopefully keep our hydrophone active. But it stands to reason that if my maximum hydrophone range is represented by this radius, that the ship's got to be somewhere within it, right? So we might make an assumption, and you also might make the assumption, that I think it's fair, that your hydrophone operator, if they pick up a ship, it's probably going to be, somewhere in the, I don't know, it might not be on the outskirt, but maybe somewhere between here and the halfway mark. So I don't know, somewhere around here. We'll use M1. I'm used to using maneuvering boards, so when you see me using M1, it's motion. And what I'm doing is I'm plotting M1, M2, M3 to give myself a read on the direction that the ship is traveling. So maybe it's there, but anyway, again, if I'm over here and I click, it's going to center me in on it. It looks like maybe it's centering in a little bit more over here. I guess that might make more sense, since it's probably on the outskirts of the hydrophone. I'm going to go ahead and use the detail that's available to me. And this is this is hydrophone contact, and we're definitely going to be doing a shortcutting of what I was showing you there about the radio contact intercept, because all of that math that I did, your crew is basically doing for you. And if you click on this line, or this little dot, that's the intercept. And if you also look down here, it's giving you information. So it's based on the based on your hydrophone operator's counting of the screw revolutions, he can tell that the ship's moving at medium speed. He can tell that it's closing in, it's getting louder. He can tell there's only one contact. This bearing is true. So you would have to actually go to the contact, and by default, if there's no heading known, it would be giving a true course as opposed to me clicking on my sub and getting a relative. But what it's saying is that the bearing is, what was it again? It's 165 to 170? So it's like, it's in here somewhere, but you'd have to take that and transfer it to my ship. So 165, yeah, that sounds about right. That's where it sees it. But that's what it's showing you. It might make more sense for a hydrophone contact, if the devs are watching, that this would be a relative bearing. I wouldn't view it in terms of true bearing like that. I would more think of it in terms of my ship's going this way, and instead of reporting it as 165 to 170, I'd report it as a bearing 224, which is what you see here. Ship propeller bearing 224. So anyway, now what happens then if I click this button? And this is where everyone's going to freak out and say, oh gosh, that's cheating. Call it cheating if you want. I find it convenient. I have the ability, if I want to do forbearing method, of not clicking on that button and not clicking on this. I can do it on my own, but I like it. It's a nice shortcut. And for what we're doing today in terms of talking about intercepts and constant bearing and so forth, it's a nice shortcut, and will get us there. But if I click on it at my current speed, which is half a head, which is 5 knots, if there is an intercept, it's going to show me what it is. And it's also going to change my sub's course. So now that is the spot. I'm going to call that M2. And if I knew what another position of it was, because this is an intercept, that's going to be a spot in the future. It's not telling me where the ship is right now. It's showing me where at my speed, 4 knots, and that ship speed, moving medium, presumably 8 or 9 knots. It's going to tell me, it's giving me that calculation, that vector intercept calculation that I showed you a minute or two ago. But what happens if I wanted to know, and my ship's coming around here slowly, what if I wanted to know what the the M1 location was? Well, if I can intercept it at this speed, if I stop my speed, this button is going to show you a line that's directly to the ship, but it's going to tell you that an intercept is not possible. So we're going to do that. I can either slow it down a lot or just stop completely.
Stop.
And now you see what happens to the intercept line. It goes right to here. It says intercept not possible, but that is the ship location. So that's actually the M1. Now with those 2 points, obviously you can get a very good bead on true course of the ship. And the ship's position is here. And it's on a course like that. And so now it becomes, oh, well, what is the intercept? And I could go in and do the vector math, but it's very handy to use this. So I'm now going to, and you can watch how this updates. I'm going to go ahead and
Change course.
I've got my intercept set. I'm going to change my speed and increase my speed. I'll go back to half a head. And now it's showing me there's my intercept for half a head. And that's an intercept. I wanted to say it was 4 knots, right? So we'll speed it up a little bit. The information I can tell you is not perfect. what you'll find is your radio officer and your crew's doing a pretty good job, and they're giving you pretty good information. It's not 100% perfect. As you get closer, and you'll see these intercepts will move around, you might end up finding that this north course is really more of a course toward, you know, maybe the port of Bergen. But it definitely will get you in the right, and maybe it's maybe they follow this leg for a while and then veer off. But this is definitely a good heading. What would happen if I slowed my speed down? Well, the expectation would be that if I'm going slower, my intercept, and let me try to clean this up a little bit so we don't have these conflicting lines. There we go. And we'll get rid of some of these dots. So what would I expect to see if I slowed down my ship? Well, if I slowed down my ship, I would expect that my intercept would go up, because now the ship is moving faster relative to me. So let's try that. Let's slow it down a little bit and see what happens to the intercept. And you can see there it is. It's creeping up a little bit. Let's say we go real slow.
Slow ahead.
You know, so if I wanted to, I could intercept this ship somewhere in this range. I'm not going to say that's right. As we get closer, this line's going to move in one direction or another to account for better information that our crew gathers. But right now I'm at 16 kilometers. If I'm inside at 20 kilometers and I'm submerged and it's during the daytime, to me, I'm in perfect position, and I can, you know, I can continue my course or continue my attack plot at 30 meters and figure out exactly where I want to go, and you know, put myself in a great position to fire. But this, you know, and if I hit stop again,
All engines stop.
it's going to show me where the ship is. So with that little bit of info, you know, and again, this isn't the 100% game. You really can get very detailed information about what your attack strategy needs to be. You know, with this sort of info, I would probably, you know,
Dead slow ahead.
I'm in such an advantageous position because I'm ahead of the ship. So I've got a lot of room to play with here. I would probably do something, you know, I might set myself up a kill zone where I'm maybe, you know, at 2 kilometers, you know, somewhere in the range of between here and here. And maybe my idea would be, hey, I'm gonna proceed on the surface to about right there, and then we'll set up a 90-degree approach, and we'll be able to set up our firing solution. And you know, so that's how that you know, this idea of a vectored approach works. Now, just to watch it unfold and to test, I'm going to delete some of this stuff. Let's test a little bit this idea of you know, constant bearing decreasing range. So I'm going to go to half ahead. I'm going to set my intercept, and we're going to accel time a little bit to get my sub on course. And as of right now, my bearing to target, that's the intercept. But if I hit stop,
All engines stop.
my bearing to target is about 15 degrees. So what I'm expecting to see as I approach on this intercept is that the bearing, you know, the range is going to be decreasing, but the bearing to target is going to stay the same at about 15 degrees. So
half ahead.
Let's watch that and see how that plays out. So I'm going to accel time a little bit. So now we're here. Let's try again. We'll do first. Let's get rid of that. Let's draw in a new one. And my expectation is that my bearing, the target should still be right around that 15. So if I hit
All
stop,
engines stop.
oops, looks like I've lost my hydrophone operator. Let's turn him back on.
And the listening room.
Sorry about that. There he is. Let's get our contact back. There we go.
Change course.
And look at that. The target is still on about a 15. And that's what you'd expect. We're going to get closer, closer, closer. That target is going to get, you know, it's going to stay on a 15 bearing, and we would intercept it. Let's put me back on.
Half ahead.
Half ahead. Okay, so now with a little bit better information, we would intercept the target right there. And the target's going to be on a 15 bearing. So after our first successful intercept, that resulted in a sinking, which I have skipped over. We can talk about the TDC and those details maybe in another video. But what I was hoping was, rather than go on dive schedule for the next one, was maybe if I just stay on the surface, run this, run our 1,000 kilometers, maybe somewhere in this time frame we'll get a radio message either from a friendly sub or from, what is it, FDU, BDU, whatever our headquarters is. So I'm going to put us on Excel time, and I'm going to hold down tab key. I see that our compressed air reserves is a little low, so I'll hold down tab key for orders. We were on red light, so we can put that back to normal. We will put, I'm going to stop this acceleration here and just talk a little bit about some stuff over here. So we'll go to electric compressor. The crew will walk over and take care of that. Stop direct orders is kind of interesting because sometimes when I'm doing scheduling, this is a little bit of a carryover from the last video, but you know, obviously we've got our crew here set up for optimal fuel usage, but sometimes if you give people an order, it puts them into this mode of, and you can also see it in their anchor. You can see how that's highlighted. If I'm clicking along here to different officers, all of them, they don't have their background highlighted yellow, except for
Captain.
Rieger. And essentially I put him directly on. I set him to navigation and gave him sailors, and that's taken as a direct order. If I click in here again, it goes away, but you'd have to do that individually. So I hold down tab key and I do this stop direct order, and you notice he now goes off duty, and you see his anchor goes black. He's not supposed to be on duty at this time, and if I left him on direct order, then it might cause Graf, who's supposed to be on duty, to not do his job. So let's see if they snap out of it. He really should be on navigation. I could maybe put him on, let's see, Rieger is still showing in nav, so we'll send him to rest.
Few hours break.
And we'll put,
I could use some help.
so we'll try that, because that's, you know, more according to their schedule. I can tell by the anchors. I'm going to forward time a little bit and leaving it on direct order for a while. Hopefully it's settled in now. Let's see what happens if I come over here and hit stop direct order. Yeah, it goes away. Let's see if eventually he comes back. Oh, it goes back to Rieger. Okay, fine. Rieger, you want that job?
I need some help here.
We'll let you take it for a while.
I'll take care of it.
But now, oh there, okay, so now it's flip-flopping back and forth the way it should be. But you just want to monitor
Captain?
Captain?
your officers to make sure they're not always on direct order, and I'm frequently hitting the tab key and frequently taking them off direct order so that they can fall into their assigned schedules. But now we're just waiting on a contact, so I'm going to see if we can get a radio contact while we move within our area. I have the settings in my my setup set so that any notification of a contact would stop time compression. And we'll see.
You've just received a new message.
There it
from
is, important
headquarters.
message received. And you see it drop me out of time compression. So let's see what this says. FDU. Oh, it's a Bergen Air Defense. I'll maybe cover that on another one. I'll hit confirm. And so what they want me to do with 52% fuel is wander over to Bergen and look for AA guns, which with the amount of fuel I have, that's easily doable. But not the focus of this video, so we're going to keep going.
Change course.
We've been notified by a friendly vessel of a possible target within our vicinity.
Perfect. So here we are. This is a radio contact intercept option. It says single steamer AN 198. Where's my pen? AN 198. So I'll make a note of that. 198 and speed 6, course 68. Wow, we've got great intel on exactly what this particular steamer is doing. But let's go to our intercept. First, let's find AN 198. So there's 19. And within there, we've got 198. There you are. So somewhere in here, I'm going to go to the center. And it's 6 knots, heading 68. So we're going to do center. Heading is 68. There. And here's our sub in our position. Now, since we're both, it would have been nicer if this was going in this direction. But what we'll do is we'll, in the U-Boat Commander's Handbook, they refer to this as an overhaul, where we're basically moving in the same general direction. It's moving at 6 knots. I'm moving at, I'm going to take it up the flank right now. I can move 13. So this might be a good, a simple dead reckoning example where I'm moving at about, double the speed. So if I'm, maybe if I go from here to here, we can kind of see where, oops, I lost my, what was it? It was 68. What would my my vector for intercept be? Now we could do the math. Okay, so we know it's 6 knots. Well, I guess we might as well give it a shot here. So 6 knots. And I know that my speed, 13. And then I draw the bearing line to the target. And what do I see? Well, there's we draw from target to my speed vector and then up to right there. So what it's telling me is, so it's target to my speed vector and then to the contact speed vector on their course. And what I see is a 10-degree intercept vector. So if I wanted to, given the course is 68, if we assume that ship's staying on that course, it means I would need to take a vector intercept of 10 degrees. Over here. And too small to see, so we'll drag this out a bit. So there. So the prediction is intercept, you know, for the information we have. That's where we think we'll find the ship. So why not? Let's put it on that direct path, and let's see how good our information was. Now, my captain's intuition tells me that if this ship is heading 68, ultimately it's going toward the port of Bergen. So then the question becomes, you know, are they taking the south approach? You know, how far are they going to continue in this direction before they turn and head more toward Bergen? I think the intercept that I've got, I don't see them changing course. You know, I think they're probably going to change course more over here. So it looks like we could possibly get within a decent intercept range and make contact. Maybe in you know, somewhere in the this AN, what is that? AN 272. So maybe somewhere in the AN 272, we can find them. So let's see how that unfolds. We'll go ahead and Excel time. We are at surface at flank doing 13 knots.
Another patrol completed successfully.
As you can see, we had plenty of fuel to complete our patrol. We're down to 39%. I'm going to stop Excel time here. I'm going to go ahead and let my radio officer send the patrol complete message. And I'm still 37% fuel, so I've got a long way to go here where I can run at flank and still be below 20-25% and have enough fuel to make it back. So I'm going to continue my chase in my little 2A sub at full flank. And I just want to test to see if we actually are going to be able to intercept, or if the target's going to be where we kind of predicted it to be. So let's see how that works. And I would say we're definitely close enough at this point. I'd say the target should be around here if my information is perfect. It could be that you know, maybe it's somewhere in this range, but let's go ahead and take a look. We're going to take us down to 30 meters. I'm going to keep running at flank to get down as quick as possible. And Excel time a little bit.
Switch to electric motors.
And we got Dresky. At this point, there's not a lot of reason to have, you know, that I might take a sailor off of navigation and put it on Dresky for a little extra help. Maybe wouldn't hurt. Gives you about a 25% range boost.
35 meters.
And we're still running at full flank. I might slow us down. Slow down to dead slow
ahead,
so that they can hear a little bit better. And we'll put it on Excel time and see if we get our hydro contact.
Current depth 30 meters.
Oh, look at that. Let's see how we did. So the bearing is ship propellers 272. And if I look here, 272. Oh wow, it's actually over in this direction. That could be like a totally different contact. Either that, or it could be that my prediction that this ship was going to start heading toward Bergen maybe came true. So let's see if that's totally different contact, or if we, you know, maybe we've completely lost our
30 meters.
Our radio intercept here. But let's go ahead and click into it. And
set a course to these coordinates.
So that would be the intercept. I'm going to give that an M1. Actually, it's not an intercept because it tells us intercept not possible. So at my slow speed, it can't make that intercept. I'm going to increase my speed to max. And it looks like, yes, it could make the intercept, that being M2. And we'll draw the true course. And guess what? They're headed toward Bergen. So down here, when I got my original info about the heading, they must have changed course or had a little bit of imperfect info, because if you draw a line, you see what I see. Their course definitely wasn't 68. It was more like 50 something, and really they were heading to Bergen. So I do think that is the contact, the radio contact that we were supposed to get, based on the information I'm seeing. And you know, from this point, you know, we can follow the, you know, the tools that I showed you, how you can use to intercept them. But at least we were able to come up with an approximate spot with a vectored intercept that got us to within a range that our hydro picked it up. I think that's a good place to stop for this video. I think you guys get the idea of, you know, how relative motion works, how these vector math intercepts work, a little bit about how you know, how our 100% you know, little cheat mode mechanics work here, and how we can increase and decrease speed and get a really good picture in 100% mode of the direction and you know, direction and true course of the ship. And I'll just you know, I'll wait and see you know, what the next item might be. I think we might go into a little bit of discussion of the TDC and how that works. But if you have topics you'd like to see me cover, by all means, you know, leave a comment below. Hope this was helpful. Thanks. Bye.